Welcome all to ITAR Group online webinar. Uh, this seminar will be recorded. First of all, I want to introduce myself, Dr. Ahmed Al-Kattan, the founder of ITAR Group. Today, our speaker is Professor Hafiz Abdo. Professor Hafiz has many positions in different university in UK, such as associate professor in accounting at the University of Nottingham, uh, uh, also a professor of accounting at Sheffield Hallam University, associate professor at Nottingham Trent University and the University of Sheffield. Professor Hafiz also he is associate editor in several journals such as Applied Accounting Research, Journal of Financial Reporting and Accounting. His research focus in accounting and taxation of extractive industry with a special focus on the oil and gas industry. Professor Hafiz research appeared in leading journals, including Accounting Forbes, Australian Accounting Review, Journal of Cleaner Production, Journal of Accounting in Emerging Economic, uh, Energy Policy, Renewable Energy, and Applied Energy. Thank you, Professor, for accepting my invitation. And this webinar, it will take 45 minutes to 1 hour, and then after that we'll open the floor for any question. The floor is yours, Professor.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you for everyone for coming to listen to my presentation this afternoon. I hope it will be useful to all. So if you have questions, please type them in and I will try to answer them after we finish. Right. Let me share my slides with you. Right. Dr. Ahmed, can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Right. This seminar will mainly talk about publishing academic research in scholarly journals. As Dr. Ahmed said, I'm associate editor for 2 journals, and my experience in research, in reviewing articles, and in some literature helped me to put some information on these slides together. So hopefully these will be useful to every one of us, including myself. Right, to start with, these are my outlines. I will cover these points in the next 45 minutes to the hour. I'm not going to go through these because we are going to cover them anyway. So, the story of publishing is sometimes can be tough, painful, but very enjoyable. So we have to publish, we have to write, we have to publish, we have to report our academic and intellectual production. But before we click the button, submit an article to a journal, we need to ask ourselves 2 questions. And this is should be probably at an earlier stage. So the first question we need to ask ourselves is, do we have a story to tell? Is there something interesting for audience? And then you need to know editors and reviewers look for original and innovative research that adds to their field of study. So what you want to publish should make sense, first of all, to yourself, your audience, and most importantly, to the editor and reviewers. This suggests that you need to clarify your research gap and position your study well in the related literature. We see sometimes PhD students saying, "Oh, I can't find literature," and we smile to them and we say, "Go and search." We see sometimes early career researchers trying to criticize literature by rubbishing it, which is not ideal. So the best thing to do is to clarify your research gap based on the similar studies you come across, and then you position your study well in the literature, because your study should emerge from the existing literature. We are not going to invent a new wheel. We may be able to enhance and develop the existing design of the wheel. And your conclusion must be sound and based on sufficient robust data. So try to remember these few startups. Then ask yourself, is there an audience for my research findings? So who will be the audience? Well, apart from your family, if they are your audience, there must be some people interested in what you are saying, and hopefully they will quote you in their own writing. Consider whether your research is of interest to local, regional, or international audience. And this is important to determine which journal you are going to submit your article to. So
Professor,
yes.
sorry for interrupt. If you don't mind, if you can loud your voice a bit. It seems fine to me, but there is some audience say it's not clear. So just if you.
That's fine. Let me just try my mic again. Hopefully it will work this time. Any good now? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so is it better now?
For me, it's all right. Yeah, it should be fine.
It's better now. Any better?
Yes. Great.
Right. So, identifying your audiences is a major factor in selecting the right journal to submit your manuscript to, as I said. And this suggests you need to think of significance of your research, and that says why your study is important and to whom it is important. So back to the audience. Right. A very important thing to know is finding the right journal. And this is something sometimes we struggle with. Finding the right journal for you makes a lot of difference, because it will reach your intended audience, first of all, and it will allow you to have the joy of the paper not just rejected based on the scope. And I'm going to touch on this in the coming few slides. So to find the right journal, the first thing you can do is check the references of your own article. So after you finish the article, go back and check the references, see where your literature is driven from. And that will tell you which journal could be ideal for you. That's the first thing you have to do. Then move to the journal aims and scope on the journal homepage. So you define the journal, go to the homepage of that journal and read the aims and scope of the journal. See, does your article fit nicely in that journal or not? Read the journal guides for authors. This is something very important. You need to make yourself familiar with guide for authors, and that will teach you how to actually present your article. Check the journal's performance for review and publication timelines. This is important, especially if you want your article to be published soon. Right. Submit your paper only to one journal at a time. Don't try to accelerate the publication process by submitting to more than one journal. Ethically, that's not acceptable. And if journals find out that you've submitted your article to more than one journal, they will reject your article straight away. Now, I'm going to share a rejection decision with you. This was a decision made on one of my articles. So they said, the journal said to me, thank you for submitting your paper to this journal. I'm not going to advertise the name, so I'm not there working as their marketing agent. So thank you for submitting your paper to the journal. While the focus of your paper falls broadly within the scope of the journal, we feel that it is not likely to offer sufficient interest to our readership. So they reject it based on the scope. And therefore, we will not consider it further for publication. So initially, that's a disc rejection based on the scope. Perhaps a more targeted submission to an internationally labeled journal might be better. So good of them, they suggested something for me. And they said, for an oil and gas type journal, of which you seem to cite a few, because my focus is accounting for extractive industries, including oil and gas industries. So they were good to suggest I look at more international journal. And then, very good of them, they said, we wish you every success in publishing your paper elsewhere. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to consider your research. Disappointing, but anyway, it's my mistake because probably I did not check the scope of the journal well. Right, journal metrics, important stuff for us as researchers to check because it means a lot. I will share the next slide. I will clarify some issues. So journal metrics help you to select the most appropriate journal for your article. It depends on what exactly you want to do. Do you want a fast publication or do you want to target a journal with a higher impact factor? So use journal metrics alongside information about the journal scope, editorial board, international outlook, and audience. And journal metrics can help you to find the best destination for your study. For example, here I'm providing a link for the Journal of Accounting Literature. Right. So if we look here at this slide, and that, by the way, that's just random. So I brought it in just to show you what we can see in the journal metrics. So the first one, policy and society, the impact is 0.42, production time is 10 weeks. Fine. If I move down to the next journal, land use policy, the impact is 2.631. It's higher than the previous one. Editorial time 9 weeks and production time 9 weeks. So I'm talking about 9 plus 9, 18 weeks. And then move down environmental society, the impact is higher. So if I want a quick publication, I will probably go to this one, resources, conversion and recycling, because it's only 7 weeks, 7 plus 5 is 12 weeks. But if I'm looking for a journal with a high impact factor, environmental science and policy is my best option. So it depends on what exactly you want to do. And that should link to your publication policy. Journal Finder Elsevier offer a link that helps you to find a journal suitable for yourself, but you need to be careful about it because it's just a software. So it's not someone reading and offering you help. It's a software, asks you for your abstract, title, keywords, and then it try to suggest some journals. Right. What is a journal article? Journal article has a clear structure to its argument. References. References other literature, offers a concise overview of methods and findings, accurately referenced and often bounded by a title count. So I'm not bringing anything new, just trying to remember with you what is meant by journal article. But the last few words, it says type word count. And usually, most of the journals will ask us to write no more than 8,000 words. Few journals allow more than 8,000 words. So the typical structure of a journal article: title, abstract, introduction, methods, results, discussion and conclusion, references, appendices, acknowledgement if there is any. I'm going to go through these points one by one. So the title is the main advertisement tool for you and your article. And it's the public face of your article. It should reflect the content clearly. Make the title catchy and keep it specific. Think of the title again and again. So it's the advertisement tool of your article. Authors, only authors who made contribution to the article should be included. I know in some places, unfortunately, I hear stories from colleagues in some places saying I have to add my head of department because he's my head of department. He asked me to. He did not contribute. Initially, that's unethical, and it should be only the authors who made a contribution to the article. Keywords list. This is, again, most journal request a list of keywords, important words that, along with the title, capture the research effectively. So make sure you select your keywords carefully. They are not any words, they are the key ones. Now, importantly, the abstract. The abstract should be no more than 200 words. Most of the journals specify the number of words they want to see for abstract. It gives the first impression, and it's your chance to advertise your article. Usually, we write the abstract at the end. Now, we make mistakes sometimes where we write the abstract at the beginning and we start to apply for conferences, etc. Then we write the paper, and then we don't go back and amend the abstract, and that's the problem. So initially, your abstract should be the last thing you write before you submit. It should summarize the problem, the objective of your research, and the method, results, and conclusion. And it should not be too long. So initially, we're talking about 150 to 200 words. The abstract usually does not include references, abbreviations, figures, or tables. Some abbreviations need to be there. For example, if I'm talking about OPEC or Security and Exchange Commission, SEC, IFRS. So some abbreviations can be included there, but these are not invented by me as a researcher. These are well-known abbreviations. Next, the body of the text. Make the introduction brief. It should provide context and background. It should not be a history lesson, so not too long. The maximum, I would say, for your introduction, probably no more than 2 pages. So I'm talking about probably 400 to 500 words on a maximum. In the introduction, set the tones for the rest of your article. So revisit the introduction again and again, improve it, make it catchy, make it shiny. The introduction should state the research problem, its contextual background, reasons for conducting the research. The reasons for conducting the research are the motivation for your study. So these should be clearly stated. So again, as I said, go back again to your motivations and revisit them, see how can you improve them time on time. State the questions or research queries you are answering and explain any findings of others that you are challenging or furthering up. And this point here the results of others is part of your motivations. So if you are challenging these results, that's part of your motivation. Or if you are taking them further up, that's again part of your motivation. But let's remember, when we criticize literature or other people's work, we don't rubbish it, we criticize it positively. So never claim superiority. Methodology and method, usually this is a small section in any given paper. However, it should be detailed enough so the readers can replicate your research and assess whether the method justifies conclusion. So in this small section, you should explain how you studied the problem, identify procedures you followed, structure this information as logically as possible. And then identify equipment and materials you use. Equipment, obviously, if you are doing science. If you are doing social science, we don't use equipment, but we use different data collection methods. Specifying the sources where you collected your data from, etc. State the frequency of observation and what type of data were recorded. This is applicable to marketing-based research. Give precise measurement, stating their strengths and weaknesses when necessary. Name any statistical test or software you've used. Now, in your results, you should present your findings objectively, explaining them largely in text, and this is where you show how your results contribute to the body of scientific knowledge. Be clear and logical. Revisit your results again, see how they enhance knowledge, what contribution they are making. Never overstate them because the reviewers, associate editor, and the editor are usually knowledgeable and experienced people. So you need to be careful about overstating your results. You can base the sequence of this text on tables, figures, and graphs that best present your findings. Emphasize any significant finding clearly, and these are usually your clear-cut contribution. Discussion and conclusion. In this section, you describe the meaning of your results, implication, especially in the context of what was already known about the subject. What do we know about the subject? What we don't know is the research gap. And then here we go, you are going to discuss what you found and how you fill the research gap. So you can present general and specific conclusions, but take care not to summarize your article. We usually see many people just trying to summarize the article in the discussion. It's not a place, the discussion is not the place for summarizing the article. That's the abstract. You should link this section back to your introduction because here you are discussing your results. And in discussing your results, you are answering your research queries actually. So link it back to the introduction, refer to the research questions or hypotheses you've made. And cover how the results related to your cited sources. So you are discussing your results in relation to the literature. Also, to offer specific call for action at the end. So this is where you want to make recommendation, but be careful again, don't overstate your recommendation. Your discussion should explain how your research has moved the body of scientific knowledge forward. Never overstate this, be careful. Just focus on your key findings, how they fill the gap, and what you've added to the body of knowledge. This is also a good place to suggest practical application for your results, and that's, as I said, suggestion, so recommendation. Never try to make very strong statement at this point. And to outline what the next step in your research will be, or if you suggest some other research can be built on your own study. Right, acknowledgement. Keep acknowledgement brief. Name those who helped you with your research. Very important thing about acknowledgement, and I've seen it, use positive language. I've seen some people using sometimes negative language. If they want to report or complain about someone, in the acknowledgement they say, we don't thank whoever. That's not right, because that may lead to your article not to be published. References, the format of citation and references varies from one journal to the other. Some journals require the numbering system, others require the Harvard citation system. So check the guide for authors and see what referencing system is required. Ethics. In any research institute or university, there is ethical code of conduct. I'm not going to go through this in detail. You have to adhere to the ethical code of conduct of your institution. Now, to share another rejection decision with you, and this was, as I said, I'm using my own rejection decision, which I received from journals. So they said to me, dear authors, thank you for submitting the paper as the reference entitled Accounting Practices and Regulations for Extractive Industries, Historical Evolution and the Framework for Standardization to the journal. I have now had a chance to read the manuscript. Unfortunately, there are some very serious issues with the paper, which together make it unlikely that the outcome of the review process will be positive. I will highlight some of these concerns in an effort to clarify my decision not to accept the paper for publication. Note, however, that you should not construe what follows as an this is a list of problems with the manuscript. I must state upfront that I have always been interested in papers on accounting history and standard setting. So in this sentence here, he is telling me my paper was a good fit for the journal, but it was rejected, and that was a desk rejection based on something else. He said, or she probably, consequently, your submission is perfectly in line with the scope of the journal. Having read the paper, I failed to discern a theoretically interesting research question that could make the manuscript a strong candidate for publication in the journal. So there is a problem with my research query, according to them. The paper is too descriptive and you do not explain well enough why such a specific industry should be of interest for accounting research. Given these considerations, the contribution of your paper does not seem significant enough for a major general interest journal, such as their journal. In an effort to achieve a quick turnaround, I did not solicit the opinion of referee. So that was, he's telling me this is a desk rejection. I am sorry that the news is not positive, but due to specific space limitations, we can only accept less than 10% of all submitted papers. I hope that this outcome will not prevent you from submitting your work to the journal in future. If you notice here, he or she said 10% of submitted papers. So when you submit a paper to a journal, make sure your article is as good as to fall within the 10% of the accepted articles. Otherwise, you don't need to waste your time. But we learn from mistakes anyway. So, submission checklist. You finished your article, you read it again and again. You are ready to submit, but don't hurry, don't be just rush and submit. Go through these points one by one. Is your article clear, concise, and accessible? Have you stuck to the article length of 8,000 words or whatever? specified in the journal's guide for authors? Have you provided an informative and engaging abstract? Did you update your abstract, highlighting your article's key points? Have you included the names and affiliation of all of your co-authors? Is your article formatted to the style required by the journal? This is very important point to note. What we've seen, some people, when they submit an article to a journal and it's rejected, they take the same draft and submit it straight away to another journal without looking at the guide for authors. And if the style is different from the new journal, it will be rejected straight away. So don't set yourself to fail. Take time, be careful. Remember, journals usually do not accept every submitted paper. Moving on. Are all references made to the literature included in your references section? So this is the last thing you check, the referencing and citation, again citation in the article. Plus, check your chosen journal peer review policy on the guide for authors, as you may need to make your paper anonymous. Check the publication policy. I can share with you an experience I had with an article. My article was accepted in a good journal that was a 3-star journal in 2011. But the article was only published in 2016. So it took almost 5 years post acceptance to be published. Another journal, which was recently published, I first submitted that article in 2017, and it was only published in last month. So it took more than 3 years, almost 3 years plus, to have it published. So it depends on what you want. You want to publish quickly or not. Right. What editors and reviewers look for in your article? First of all, originality. Does the paper contain new and significant information adequate to justify publication? Relationship to literature. As I said, your article must emerge from existing literature and never claim there is no literature. Does the paper demonstrate an adequate understanding of the relevant literature in the field and cite an appropriate range of literature sources? Is any significant work ignored? So, for example, if you are writing about corporate social responsibility and you are ignoring the author who first wrote about corporate social responsibility in 1953, Howard Bogdan, I think his name. So if you are ignoring that author, then there is something wrong. And then when you discuss the literature, when you critically, you are telling the reviewer what is known about the topic. And you are establishing what is not known about the topic, which you are going to do. Methodology. Is the paper argument built on an appropriate base of theory, concepts, or other ideas? Has the research or equivalent intellectual work on which the paper is based been well designed? Are the methods employed appropriate? And then the results. Are the results presented clearly and analyzed appropriately? Do conclusions adequately tie together the other elements of the paper? So your conclusion must provide answer to your research questions, and they must fill the gap you are claiming to fill in your research. So this is kind of mapping. You have to do this kind of mapping between your research questions, your methodological approach, and the results. Implication for research, practice, and for society. Does the paper identify clearly any implications for research, practice, or society? Does the paper bridge the gap between theory and practice? So these are the things that editors look for in your paper. How can the research be used in practice? What is the impact upon society? Are these implications consistent with the findings and conclusion of the paper, or are they overplayed? And importantly, quality of communication. So make sure your paper is proofread. Even if you are a native speaker, it's still good for you to have your paper read and professionally proofed by somebody else, your colleague, whoever. So at least you have someone to have read your article to see the quality of communication. Does the paper clearly express its case, measured against the technical language of the field and the expected knowledge of the journal readership? And has attention be paid to the clarity of expression and readability, such as sentence structure, jargon use, acronyms, etc. Try to avoid many acronyms in your paper. That will make the readability difficult for us. A letter to the editor. If you have the option when you submit, some journals allow you to write to the editor. If you have the option or the opportunity to write to the editor a letter alongside your submission, please do write to the editor. This is your opportunity to clarify, to explain your article in a simple, easy to understand language. So this is an advice. Please don't ignore that opportunity. If it's there, take it. The usual formulation about research ethics, and the first thing you need to say about it, in your letter, this paper is submitted only to this journal. So an explanation of why you decided to submit your manuscript to that particular journal. Probably here you can link back to the references, to the scope of the journal, and to its interest. And most importantly, why it is worth the editor's time to consider it. So you tell them it's important for the journal. It's addressing certain gaps. It's a new innovative idea, and so on and so forth. Why would your paper be of interest to the readers of that journal? How does it contribute to the conversation already started by the journal? What are the strengths of your paper? What are its main contributions? Why is the research site method particularly interesting, relevant? And possibly a list of appropriate reviewers for the paper with a brief explanation of why they are suitable. So here you are helping the editor actually to find reviewers, but you have to be careful. You have to tell them why those reviewers are suitable. It's not because they are your relatives or friends or you know them. It's just because they are good, specialized in that area. Now, you submitted your article, waiting a few weeks, maybe a few months to hear back from the journal. The outcomes will be accept without any amendments. That's happy days. Minor revision, and that revise and resubmission. Good, it's still perfect. Major revisions, still not bad because the paper is in the journal system. Reject, this is what we don't like to see and hear. But anyway, this could be the outcome of the revision. Right. One more reject decision. I'm just hoping the audience are not saying, oh, how many times his paper is be rejected. Many times. But if you don't have rejections, that means people are not reading your work and actually are not working. So let's go through the decision. We have now received the comments of our associate editor and regret to advise that he does not recommend publication of your paper in the journal. The main issue is the lack of clear motivation rigorous theoretical development and sound empirical analysis that we typically require from these papers. The associate editor also points out that the sample is quite small and is not likely to have much external validity. The associate editor suggests that another journal as a possibly outlet for the paper, but it should be shortened and the data analyzed more rigorously. Fine, they said no, but they suggested another journal, and I took their advice. They provided me with a list of issues I needed to address, and I did. And by the way, all of these rejection decisions are for articles I submitted, and every article is published now. So the rejection is not too bad because it's part of the process. So you don't expect your articles to be accepted, published straight away. If they are rejected, that's fine. This is part of the process. Take it positively. Now, someone said to me, how you deal with the rejection decision? How emotionally, how you deal with it? I said, just ignore it. You read it, you read the email or the letter of rejection. The best thing, you don't do anything. Read it, close your email, don't think of it, go for a run. It's fine. Go outside to your back garden, shout as loud as possible. It's absolutely fine. I usually do one thing, which is my pain, if I may say. I write a very strong complaint letter to the editor, but I don't send them. So I keep them for myself. So I just express to myself, I'm angry, I'm criticizing the decision, I don't agree with it, but I keep it for myself. Anyway, this is something I do. So you may try it if you like. Another rejection decision, although you have an interesting and valuable paper, the paper needs to be substantially improved before it can be considered for the journal. And they said, the title seems very odd and fails to precisely reflect the essence of the manuscript. So they criticized my title, which was good because I changed the title and the paper was published. There are no substantial information and key findings in the highlight section. So you see, they hit on the highlight. So you have to be careful when you write your 4, 5, or 6 highlights up front. Abbreviations should not be used in the title, abstract, keywords, highlight, and conclusion section. And this is something I always remember now, and the abbreviation should be always avoided. The freestyle layout of this transcript does not work at all, rather it fired back or backfire. In the introduction section, present section 1 and 2, there is lack of a clear and concrete storyline to underline the originality and novelty of this study. So in that draft, I missed the motivation of the study. So there is no story, and I was hit hard by it, but thank you to them. In the materials and methods section, it is of prime necessity and importance to summarize the survey, including the rationale, the methods. It is appropriate and convenient to just give a link. It should be, it is not, but anyway. In the result section, the discussion section, there are too many subsections and layers. So they criticize the presentation of my result section. And then in the conclusion section, the author shall summarize and address the original and novel results found in this study. They hit on my results as well. The present figures, and this is very interesting. The present figures are presented in the different patterns. So figure 1, figure 3, 3D, 2D, etc. So they wanted all of them to follow the same style. Probably I missed something else. I took it out intentionally. The present figure are presented in the different patterns, figure, etc. You can tell the reviewer here is not a native speaker. With full respect to them, whoever they are, they hit on the written English. I'm not a native speaker, but my co-author was. He is originally from Oxford, and he's a native speaker, and his English can't be judged by someone like myself because I'm not a native speaker. But the associate editor still criticized the written English, so expect that, which is fine. Right. Tips for publishing academic articles. These are few tips. Take them, remember them, and use them before you submit. Focus on a story that progresses logically rather than chronologically. Don't try to write and edit at the same time. This is very important. Don't try to write and edit at the same time. So you have your draft and you are improving it. So if you have an article to hand, reading it, and you find some good points in that article related to your study, don't stop reading and move straight away to the article and try to amend, because you are reading and editing, and that can make you lose focus. I myself make this mistake sometimes. So finish the article in your hand and then go back and try to amend your draft. Don't bury your argument like a needle in a haystack. Make it shine. Ask a colleague to check your work. Ask more colleagues to check your work. Ask people, your son, your husband, your wife, whoever, to read your paper and give you comments. Whoever read your paper and give you even a small feedback, that will be helpful. Get published by writing a review or a response. This is especially important for PhD students and for early career researchers, early career research colleagues. Don't forget about international readers, and don't try to cram your PhD into 6,004 paper. So if you just finished your PhD or you want to publish from it, don't copy and paste from the PhD. Make sure you start fresh. Use your data, use your analysis, it's fine, but start fresh. Pick the right journal. Pick the right journal. You want your article to be published, and you want people to quote from your article. Always follow the correct submission procedures. Make sure that it is clear where your research sits within the wider scholarly landscape and which gaps in knowledge it's addressing. Don't overstate your methodology, and don't overstate your results, and don't overstate your contribution. Make sure your conclusion provides answers to your research questions, linking back to fund. Think about how quickly you want to see your paper published. Check the metrics, journal metrics, and remember, when you read published papers, you only see the finished article. So when you are doing drafts, sometimes you could go to draft 20, 25, or 30. I had a colleague somewhere, I'm not going to mention the country. He called me and he said, I want you to be my co-author. I'm stuck, and I've been working on this article for 10 weeks now, and it's ready for submission. And I thought, 10 weeks working on an article, that's hardly enough to cover the literature review. So don't rush, take your time. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I'm going to put this slide up. So this is another seminar, another topic. So if you are interested, please be in touch with Dr. Ahmed, and we can arrange for it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Hafiz, for the interesting and useful webinar. And now I can open the question. If anyone have any question, please raise hand. and we'll go one by one. The first one, Musa Saber.
Okay, Dr. Ahmed, shall I
Yes.
stop sharing so I read the questions or?
No. The audience, the doctors, they will talk and they will ask you the question. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now the first one is Abdul Latif. Your mic is mute.
I can't hear anything.
Yeah. Ahmed Saidi. Ahmed Adnan Saidi.
Yeah, but his mic is muted.
Yes.
Dr. Ahmed, can you check if you muted the participants' mics?
Yeah, Professor. One by one, I can open the mic for them.
Yeah, okay. Because,
so the first
is muted.
Yeah, Ahmed Adnan Saidi, please unmute your mic, please. The next one is Sumaya Rahmani, the next one. Ahmed. Sorry, Abdurrahman.
Yeah, but Dr. Ahmed,
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'd like to thank Dr. Hafiz for his brief introduction about research and publications. So my question, I have lastly just sent my article to one scholarly journal under the Elsevier publication. And I got, I think last week, a notice that talking about your article has been withdrawn. And the reason they said because I didn't upload, I don't know, full paper, despite I uploaded that. I don't understand. Then is it problem and I need to communicate, like, I don't know who I can communicate for that problem? I don't know if Dr. Hafiz has any idea about this.
Right. Did they accept your article?
No, they sent me my article has been withdrawn.
Withdrawn.
Yeah.
Okay. I would believe there is something wrong, and probably one of your co-authors, if you have co-authors, withdrawn the article by mistake, or probably it could be sometimes you may have visited the journal website and by mistake withdrawn the article. So I will contact them again and say, can you please explain to me why my article is withdrawn?
I don't know, that was last week, but I am the solo author. I'm the only one author. And
Okay.
the reason they said I didn't upload, I don't know, the full article, but I uploaded. I mean, I made sure that I uploaded everything and all their requirements.
Okay. Obviously, there is miscommunication between you and them. I will go back to them and send them the article by email and say I tried, and obviously there is something wrong, because usually journals will not withdraw your article; they will reject it. They will say it's rejected. So there is something miscommunication. In my view, there is miscommunication. Go back to them, write them a nice email, and then just see what they will reply to you.
Okay, like I have to, like I shall be communicating with them in future, right?
I suggest so, yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sumaya?
Sumaya, your mic? Yeah, okay, go on, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you for this interesting session. And thanks to the doctor. Please just want to ask about the types of article. So where there is no clear theoretical basic for specific subject, could we reduce an article about that, knowing that it will include not new results, only a systematic analysis of previous knowledge and scientific works? Is it eligible?
You are talking about literature review type of article. In this case, you don't need theory, and yes, you can
Professor,
publish.
Professor, if you raise your voice, please, but a bit.
Yeah, I will try. Yeah. What I'm saying is, this is the type of literature review article, and it does not need a theoretical base for it. But usually these articles are not easy to be published because you need to be systematic in your literature review. So they will check, they will be hard on your methodology and the way you selected your articles.
So please, so it is harder than the new results article. Is that right?
Usually, yes.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumaya. Ashu? Ashu Jain? Yes.
Hello.
Sure.
Yes.
Hi,
Hello. Yeah. Good evening, Dr. Hafiz. Thank you very much for this enriching and knowledgeable session. Thank you so much. I just wanted to know, what do you mean by impact factor? How to judge a journal which is good or bad for us? I like how to know what is a better journal for the commerce stream. And the other one is, you have not said anything about hypothesis. So is it not a required part of the research? One should not keep in this mind that hypothesis is also an important part or not? I just wanted to know these two questions. I hope I'm clear.
Okay. Thank you, Asha. The impact factor, each journal has a measurement called impact factor. So when you visit a journal website, they will advertise their impact factor. The better the journal, the higher the impact factor is. And this is linked to a number of measures, including readability, quotation, citation, etc. So that's the first one. So the higher the impact factor, the better the journal. That's the first, your first question. Your second question is about hypotheses. If you have research questions in your article, you don't need hypotheses. So we either answer research questions or test hypotheses. So you don't need both. So if you are using hypotheses, and this is usually for quantitative based research, then that's absolutely fine. But in your introduction section, you kind of convert the hypothesis into a research query. So you state what the research query is. So instead of writing clear questions. Is that clear, Asha?
Yeah. And thank you very much, sir. It is clear to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Firdaus Ahengar. Firdaus, your mic is mute. Next one, Abdurrahman Abdu. Firdaus, your mic is mute. Abdurrahman? Oh,
Yeah, I mean, is my voice clear? I know. I think I forgot to ask another question to Dr.
Yes,
Abi.
Abdurrahman. Yes, Abdurrahman, go on.
I don't know. I have actually another article. Can I publish? I mean, different topic. I can publish same month in one in that Elsevier and that Elsevier Scopus journals.
I did not understand your question, Abdurrahman. So, do you
I
have
mean,
two different articles?
I mean, in 1 month, I mean, I have 2 articles. I have written 2 articles.
Yeah.
Can I publish them simultaneously in
If they are
different
different,
journals, different journals, but same month?
okay. If they are different, if the articles are different,
Yeah, different.
you can, yes, because you need to be careful. Journals use the Turnitin software. So if you publish, say for example, you have a paper published somewhere, and then after it's being published, you try to publish a similar article somewhere else. The new journal will run your article through Turnitin software, and they will detect any kind of plagiarism. So if there are 2 articles are different, I don't see any problem in publishing them in the same journal or in different journals. There are no problem at all.
I mean, about the name, there is no problem for that.
What you need? What name?
I mean, my name lies as an author.
No, no, at all, not at all. I myself, I had 2 articles published last month in the same journal. 2 different articles in the same journal.
In the same month, right?
Within the same month, yeah, that's not a problem.
Oh, okay. That's like appreciated. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Ali Hussein. Ali Hussein Hazem, your mic is mute.
Yes, yes, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Professor, thank you very much for your interesting lecture.
You're welcome.
I would like to ask, what is the difference between impact factor journals and site score journals? Thank you very much.
Okay. The impact factor is it's just a figure of each journal. It's the score for the journal. Okay. So each journal has a score called impact factor, and this is based on a number of other factors. So it's calculated and usually journals presented. Now, the Scopius journals, these are set of journals in one group. Okay, usually they have some specified quality to be in the Scopius. Usually,
So are Scopus or all Scopus the same as Web of Science, or vice versa? Or for example, is there, for example, a journal that has a site score and impact factor, or which one is stronger than others?
okay. I myself, I can't tell you which one is stronger. Different institutions have different policies. So some institutions will say you need to publish in Scopius journals, for example. My own institution, or here in the UK, we don't look at Scopius. We look at something called Association of Business Schools, for example, regarding the business schools. So we have a list of journals. So these are different things. So it depends on your institution. What do they require from you? Do they ask you to publish in Scopius journals, or do they say just go for impacted, highly impacted journals like 2+? So some institutions suggest you can publish in any journal as far as the impact factor is more than 2, for example.
Now it's clear, dear Professor. Thank you very much for your explanation.
Thank you, Ali.
Nareesh? Nareesh, your voice is not clear. Nareesh, your voice is not clear. No, we can't hear you.
Okay. Can I just type the question on the chat?
Nareesh, I am sorry, but your voice is not clear. Maybe write your question down in the chat or in the question and there, and I will read it for Professor Hafiz.
I posted on the question answer thing.
We can't hear you. Sorry. Just write your question, please, and I will tell Professor Hafiz. Thank you. Raghda? Raghda?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much for valuable webinar, Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Hafiz. I want to ask about writing reference in the text. Some paper write a number page, and another don't write page number beside year and author.
Okay.
So I want to ask when we should write page number in the text.
Okay, Ravda. You are asking me about the citation in the text. Now,
Yes.
the general rule is you use the author's surname plus the year when you paraphrase from any given source. But if you are using direct quotation from any source, or if you are using, for example, a table or a figure as it is from the source, you have to refer to the author surname, year of publication, and page number. Okay?
You mean if I write a sentence, for example, without paraphrasing, in this case, I write page number?
Exactly. So if you are taking, for example, one sentence from my article and you are using it as it is, okay, without any change, without any paraphrasing, so the reference will be Abdo, comma, the year of publication, and then page number.
Yes, thank you. I have another question.
Please.
Sometimes if I want to write definitions of concept or I write advantage and disadvantage, where I can write it in structure, literature framework, theoretical framework, or literature review.
The first time you refer to the concept, you have to define it.
Yeah.
So in the paper, if you are referring to a new concept in your introduction section, this is where you define it. Okay?
Yeah. But if I want to write the advantage of or disadvantage.
Can you explain a bit more, please?
If I want to write a paragraph about advantage and disadvantage, one method, for example, yeah. Okay?
Okay.
I write it in theoretical framework.
Not necessary to be in the theoretical framework. It depends on what you are writing and where it should be best fit. So I can't tell you because if you have something, I need to read it and I need to say this will best fit here or there. So it depends on the topic you are discussing. It depends on the idea you are furthering up. It depends on the discussion point itself.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you,
Thank you
Rahman.
so much. Yes.
Chandrika?
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Hello, sir. Like, I hope you both are doing good and safe as well during this pandemic time. I just have two questions to Abdul sir.
Okay.
The one is that like how can we validate the data if we have collected to different sources? Is it mandatory that journals demand for us to validate the sources?
Okay. Let me answer this question. If you are doing a quantitative based research, you will need to validate your data. You use a statistical test, and then you show you validated your data. That's kind of a blanket requirement. If you are using qualitative based research, you don't need to do the same validation, but at least you need to mention the credibility of your sources. So if you are interviewing people for a market-based research, for example, so if you interviewed a marketing manager, that's credible source. But if you are interviewing, for example, 3 customers on the road, then you will be questioned on the validity of these sources and the validity of data they provided you. So if you are checking marketing policy issue, for example, then you're supposed to be talking to people with knowledge and experience. Can you see
Okay, great.
the difference?
Yes, and I got one more doubt. Like when we are writing the thesis to submit a PhD, our supervisors are requesting, I mean, demanding us to publish all the data which is there. I am like just worried when we are going for publication of all the data that we have already done the analysis with. Will after submitting the thesis, will it not come under the plagiarism? Will it be ethical to include all that in the thesis as well as in the publication? I was just having this doubt.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
you can use the data from your PhD thesis to write different articles. So it's not plagiarism. That's not plagiarism. This is your data. You collected the data and you can use it. And in this case, if you are using your data which you collected for your PhD, and you know the PhD is published, so in this case, if you use the data as it is in a publication, it will be considered as a secondary data. Okay.
Okay.
But usually, supervisors are very careful and they are very keen to have their students publishing before the Viva, because when you go to your Viva and you say, I published 1 or 2 articles from this thesis, that will help you a lot in the Viva. So your work is published. So that will give validation and credibility to your work. So this is where supervisors come from, and sometimes they can be pushy, but for a good reason.
Okay, but when the thesis go for plagiarism test, it gets reflected on the thesis as well, right? That it is already been published elsewhere.
If you publish articles from your thesis, okay, and then you submit your thesis, you are talking here about the data. That will not count as a plagiarism. But if you are copying and just copy and paste from your thesis into the article, yes, it will be plagiarism in this case. But whoever checked the plagiarism, they will check where it's plagiarized. So if you are taking, for example, direct quotation from your PhD thesis, that will be shown as a plagiarism, but whoever checking will not consider it as an issue.
Okay, the same as the result also, right?
Yes, but as I said, when you write an article based on your PhD, try to write from fresh. So don't copy and paste. So,
okay.
Yeah. That's the main message.
Got it. Got it. Yes. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Fatma Al-Qahtani, the next one. Fatma Al-Qahtani.
Yes, Fatma, I can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
I
we
can.
can.
Okay. Can we put the result and discussion in one because I see some papers in some journal write it in one section at the same time in the same journal there are some papers write in separate sections.
Okay, Fatma, your voice was not very clear. So let me just double check with you. You're asking me if you can write the results and discussion in one section because some journals allows this to happen. Is that right? Fatma, did you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah, okay. Yes, as I said, different journals will have different presentation style. So if the journal is requesting you to have your results separate from the discussion, then you have to have two sections. If the journal allows discussion and results to be incorporated in one section, you are safe. That's absolutely fine. So results and discussion can be in the same section. Yes.
Oh,
It depends on the journal. So if the journal allows so, then that's absolutely fine. In one of the journals I submitted an article to, they requested me to have a methodology section, and they wanted a section for materials. So I went back to them and said, I'm in social science. What you mean by materials? And they said, you need to discuss your methods in separate section from the methodology. It was the first experience for me, so I did. So it depends on the journal.
okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Dr. Ilyas.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you, Prof. Hafiz, and thank you, Dr. Ahmed, for your interesting presentation. My question regarding to the scopus of the journals. As you know, there are different scopus like Q1, Q2, and Q3. In your opinion, do you prefer the researcher to start in Q1 or Q2 or Q3? As you mentioned in your second slide in the presentation, sometimes some journals require too much time for publishing. So what do you prefer to start in Q1, Q2, or Q3? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now there are different journal ranking. So if we are talking about Q1 to be the highest ranking of a certain ranking system, I would say an early career researcher, probably a PhD student, I would encourage them to go to Q4 and Q3. So that's how it works, because usually you compare the quality of the journals by the Qs. So Q1 is the highest, that's equivalent to 4-star. Q2 is less than Q1, and then it's a 3-star, and then Q3 and Q4 is 1 and 2-star. So an early career researcher should target the 2-star, the Q3. A PhD student, if they just want to publish something, that's the Q4 is fine. But for a well-established researcher, I would think Q1 and Q2 will be fine, but that does not put you off from publishing in Q3 or Q4. Sometimes you have a paper you've written, it's on your desktop somewhere, and then after a few months, few years, you think, okay, I'm not going to enhance that article. So instead of having it sitting on your desktop, I would send it to a Q4. It's absolutely fine. So have it published somewhere. It's better than have it saved on my computer forever. So it depends on how advanced you are in your research career. Well-established researchers should try to publish quality papers. Early career researchers and PhD students, it's good for them to start with 1 and 2 stars, that's Q4 and Q3.
But sometimes some journals, even if it is a Q2 or Q3, they request to pay a fees. This will affect the ranking of the journal, or it's a usual thing?
Okay. Very good question, Dr. Ilyas. Now, this is a different issue. Most of the American journals and some of the Australian journals require you to pay submission fee. Okay, and the submission fee could be 100 to 200 US dollars. Now, some other journals request publication fee, and this can go up to thousands. I myself, I would not advise anyone to publish in these journals because they are commercial journals and they are there for just to make money.
Okay.
I was an active reviewer for one of these journals, and then suddenly I found out they charge about $7,000 for publication, and then I stopped reviewing to them. Although they are good journals, I'm not going to mention the name because I'm not going to be their marketing agent here, and I stopped reviewing for them because they are using people. So I would not advise anyone to pay for publication fees, but for submission fees, as I said, American and some of the Australian journals charge submission fees.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Shaymal Al-Nizi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you, Professor Hafiz, and thank you for Dr. Ahmed to host this webinar. I got a question about how I should position my paper in the current debate of the literature review. And since the intervention we use, it's quite controversial, and there are two types of classification of that. I got some comments that if you follow one type of classification, you may miss a whole bunch of the literature. However, I think that if we follow like one classification, it's already there in the literature. It's better than reinvent the wheel and redo what other did. So do you think this like a good justification if we build in something in the literature?
Okay, Shana. Now, how to position yourself in the literature. When you do the literature review, you will come across very general literature that talk about the topic in general. And then you will come across a number of studies that are very similar to your study, but obviously they should be different in somehow. Okay? So these few studies, these are called the previous similar studies. And this is your focus. So you focus on these studies, you check what they've done, how they've done what they've done, and then you try to criticize them positively to say, okay, they established such and such, however, they missed a bit, and this missing bit is my research gap. So you don't, as I said, you don't rubbish them, but you build on them. So you have different layers of literature. One is very general. So for example, if I'm talking about corporate social responsibility, I will read anything about corporate social responsibility. Then I'm focusing, for example, on say Saudi Arabia. Okay, I will try to focus my literature on corporate social responsibility in Saudi Arabia, and then I am focusing on oil and gas industry. You see, it's getting narrower now. Any study that discussed corporate social responsibility in Saudi Arabia in the oil and gas industry, these are the very similar studies to mine. And then I will try to evaluate these studies, criticize them, and position myself in the middle of these studies. So to build on what they've done. Did I answer your question?
Yes, it did. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Shaima. Majdi.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Professor Hafs, for your presentation, and Dr. Ahmed for making this helping this presentation. I just have two simple questions. Basically, you provide us with one finder for the research, different kind of journals. Dr. Hafs, do you have another suggestions to find your suitable journal to publish in and papers and things like that? Other software and somewhere else to look if I want to find my proper journal, because I don't want to publish, as you say, probably something maybe is not suitable for me. This is my first question. I have another question.
Okay, Majdi, the first, the link I provided is available. It's there for us to use. But as I said, check your references first of all, and then seek advice from your supervisor, from your colleagues. Check with your previous supervisors if you can. By the way, Majdi was my student.
Yeah.
Okay. So and then seek advice from established researchers.
Okay.
As I said, give your article to people to read, and then they will suggest for you. And at the same time, do your homework. Try to visit journals' websites.
Yeah.
Check their guide for authors, the scopes, and then you see if your article fits in the journal you are looking at.
Okay. Okay, that's great. My other questions, basically, I'm just at the end of my PhD journal, so I just maybe I'm looking for basically a step to do some publications. Can I, for example, I have questionnaires and interviews. Can I break down my interview finding to different kind of I'm making papers itself, or I need to do the whole questionnaire, for example, and set it as one paper because I have different kind of categories in that questionnaire, for example?
You can, if the interviews you conducted have different focus, then you can have different papers. Okay, so you are doing international financial reporting standards, right?
Yeah.
So you are focusing, for example, on the accounting regulations. That can be a paper. If you are looking at this in the same study, if you are looking at perception of stakeholders of IFRSs, then that's another study. So you can. If you want to join them together in one paper, that's doable. Now, if your study is focusing on, for example, a developing country, and you are in accounting, the best fit journal will be Accounting in Emerging Economies. Journal of Accounting in Emerging Economies, and they target articles about focus on emerging economies. If you are focusing on internationally, IFRSs internationally, then you are looking for example, European Accounting Review or Accounting Research, etc.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hafid. Thanks to Dr. Hafid for your help and assist. Thank you very much.
Osman.
I really appreciate your valuable lecture, Dr. Hafid. I have two questions. We know that Scopus and Web of Science are generally acknowledged, but there are such journals that are not follow under this two publishers. How can we identify the journals that are also internationally acknowledged to be published, to publish our paper in these journals that they are not included in these two publishers?
Okay.
And the second question is about the Arabic publication houses. Do we have such Arabic publication houses that are similar to Web of Science or Scopus? Thank you very much indeed for.
Thank you. With regard to the first question, it depends again on your institution. So if they want you to publish only in Scopius rated journals, you have to follow the instructions. Otherwise, your publication will not be considered for your promotion. If they do not specify certain stream of journals like Scopius or whatever, then I would suggest you follow the impact factor of any journals, any mainstream journals. There are many places where you can check for journals. For example, there is easy one called SJR ranking. So if you go to the website, it's there. Just write one word, for example, accounting, marketing, the human resources, etc., and it will show you all of the journals. And then you go through them one by one and select the one suitable for you. So I can't give a clear answer here because it depends on what your institution requires. Okay?
Okay, that's good.
The second question, can you remind me of the second question, please?
Yeah, about the Arabic publication houses.
Okay.
I think that such journals are not included in the Scopus or Web of Science.
Okay, I do speak, my first language is Arabic, but unfortunately I don't know. If there is any stream that for Arabic journals, I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
I always wrote and work in English.
What I maybe I can help you, Uthman. There is one from Jordanian. Please send me an email and I will share it with you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.
Thank
you. Kareem, you are the next one.
Oui, salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Can you hear me? Okay, so you can hear me. So first, thank you, Professor Abdu, for the presentation. Thank you also, Dr. Ahmed, for the webinar. So my question is about feedback that I got some moment ago from a journal. I got major revision, and in this revision, it seems that one of the reviewers is not buying our story, and in particular, he seems to not be convinced by the framework that we used in the article. So my question in this case, may I change the framework in this situation? And if yes, maybe the whole story of the article will be radically changed. So please, if I don't know if you can advise me, Professor Abdu.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks in advance.
Sure. Okay. So how many reviewers were there? 2 or 3?
The 2 reviewers plus the associate editor.
Okay. Okay. One of the reviewers did not like your theoretical framework, for example. The other reviewer did not say anything about it, or said it's acceptable. Now, your task is to please the reviewers. Okay, so you need to amend your paper in a way to have that pass, because your paper will be sent back when you resubmit it. It will be sent back to the same reviewers. Okay. So you will need to prepare a list of amendments, or we call them response to reviewers, and you list every requirement and how you addressed it. So if he said something about your theoretical framework, you need to do something about it. So sometimes if you believe he's completely wrong, then you can challenge them, but you have to be very careful how you challenge them. So you need to provide them with more information about why you use that particular theoretical framework and why it's no good to change it. Okay? So if you become hard with them, they will easily reject your paper, unfortunately. So, but you need to take into account this reviewer does not know you personally. He know you through the paper. So he read the paper. He does not agree with something, provided some suggestions. You need to follow these suggestions if you believe they will add value to your paper. If you believe they are going to change it or it's not related to your focus, then you write back to them. And in the response to reviewers, just say, I'm sorry, this is not linked because such and such. However, I am open for more suggestions. So don't get it too hard on them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my suggestion.
Okay. So many thanks, Professor Abda. I will try to do as you are saying, and we will see. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Mustafa, you are the next one.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you, Professor Hafiz and Dr. Ahmed for making this webinar done. I'd like to join an online master degree program in international taxation. My question is, could you please recommend the universities that provide such type of online master program in international taxation? And does it work to join such a program online instead of attending it? Especially in my country, there is no university that provides such type of program. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Now, this is not related to research, but I may have some answers for you. If you find a university like the Open University in the UK, it's a university online, and it's just like any other university. Now, if you want to do your master or probably PhD, you can do it in Open University. It's very credited university, well known. If you want to do professional qualification in relation to taxation, you probably will best fit in Chartered Institute of Taxation. This is a charity in London. They have many courses. I am one of their examiners actually. As I said, it's a charity, but they give you a professional qualification and their courses are online. So you need to just think of what you want to do. But if you are talking about these many universities which are located in the middle of nowhere, advertising for online courses, charging you thousands of US dollars, and then at the end you don't know where is the university, you don't know who's teaching what, and then you don't know if your certificate is going to be valid. So you have to be careful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa.
Dr. Ahmed, someone posted a question, and it's a nice, good question. If you allow me to read it and answer it.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it says, should I apply for reviewer position in a journal before publishing articles so that I can ameliorate my work and respect the best standards? Okay. Initially, for reviewers, you don't apply for positions. You will find sometimes somebody, associate editor or an editor, will contact you and they will request you to review an article. My advice is, if anyone contacted you to review an article, even if it's not in your area, try to review it, because what you are doing, you are putting yourself in the reviewer chair. So you are looking at the article in a critical eye. That will help you when you draft your own articles. You will submit your article, you think you are the reviewer of your own article, and you will think what the reviewers are looking for. So it's a good experience. So as I said, you don't apply for reviewers positions, but if you know any associate editors or editors and you are willing to review, contact them and say, I am in that area, I'm willing to review, please send me articles if you can. I'm myself, I'm associate editor for 2 accounting journals. If anybody is interested in reviewing articles, accounting articles, I'm more than happy to assign them article to review. And it's very good experience. It's a free service. You don't get paid for it, but it's very good for your writing skills.
That's a good opportunity. I encourage everybody, if you want to be a reviewer, to contact Professor Hafiz. Yeah, and I think, Professor, there is a second question for the same person.
What's the second question?
The second question, yeah.
Should I apply for reviewer before? I can't see the other question. What's the question? Can you read it for me, please? Oh, okay. Okay, second. In these pandemic times, there is a lot of calls for papers with deadlines about possible financial solution, but there is not enough time to make a good article, neither the possibility to, okay, fine. I myself, I receive a lot of emails from different people around the world saying, can you write a chapter, a book chapter, can you write a book, can you do this and this? Now, it depends on what I want to do. If I have time, if I have nothing else to do, probably I will be engaged in these course. But if I have a paper I'm working on, I want to publish this paper in a good quality journal, I will ignore this course. So that's how it works. So it depends on what you want, your research agenda, your capacity, your time, and if you are keen to publish something related to the global pandemic, go for it. Why not? It's a hot topic. Okay.
Okay. Zubair? Yes, Zubair? We can't hear you.
Zubair, assalamu alaikum. I can't hear you.
Zubair, we can't hear you. If you maybe, yeah, your mic is unmute, but I don't know if you maybe your mic is not working. Yes, yes, now we can. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. I have 2 questions. Number 1 is if we have sequential papers like paper 1, paper 2 is dependent on paper 1, but both are not published. So, for example, I want to work on SLR, Systematic Literature Review, then conceptual paper. And conceptual paper will be based on a systematic literature review. So should I submit these both paper to a same journal and at a time, or what should be the sequence? Number 2, I want to know average publication time of SLR papers and conceptual papers.
Okay. Right. Thank you. You can submit both papers to the same journal, but there is a risk here, because if paper 2 is based on paper 1, okay, that means the reader should read paper 1 before paper 2, and the reader should be aware of paper 1. So before reading paper 2, they should address paper 1. So the way forward is you contact the editors and you say, I have these projects and I want to publish them in your journal. Some editors may not allow this, and some editors may say, oh yeah, okay, fine, go ahead. I've seen people publishing 5 papers, sequential papers in the same journal, but in paper 1, they say, this is paper 1 of 5, and they give outline of each paper. So the reader will follow them one by one. So, but the secret here is you get a blessing from the associate editor or the editor. So because if you send your paper 1 to a journal and it's accepted, then you send paper 2 to the same journal or different journal, and if it does not have the enough suitable theoretical basis, it will be rejected. So that's the issue. So I would advise you to contact the editor or one of the associate editors, seek their advice before you publish. What was your second question, Zubair?
My question two was the average time of publication, SLR papers and conceptual papers.
Okay, okay. Now, this depends on the journal itself. So some journals will take really long time depending on the reviewers. So for example, if my journal assigned an article for me and I contacted 2 reviewers, so one reviewer took a week to review, so I have a review, and the other reviewer took 3 months to review. So in this case, I have to wait for 3 months. And then if I'm busy, and that's taking me another few weeks, so that will extend the time for decision. But if, for example, one reviewer accepted to review, and then after 3 months, he's not responding. So I contact them and he or she is not responding. So I have to assign another one, and that's delay the process. So it depends. It's different from one journal to the other. It depends pretty much on reviews, reviewers, and the time of the year. So for example, nowadays, we are marking exam papers. So I'm not willing to, I can't actually give up on marking and start reviewing papers. So everything must wait. So there is no clear-cut answer for this.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah. Thank you.
Doctor, there is a small question from Dr. Fatma Aloush. She asked about what is the meaning of book chapter.
Okay. Yeah, okay. If we are talking about the current global COVID-19 pandemic, you will find many publishing companies contacting people to write chapters about the pandemic, from social, from economic, political, sport, etc. So somebody will contact you and say, are you interested in writing a chapter about the global COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on marketing, for example, if you are a specialist in marketing. So they will say to you, write about 20 pages, 10,000 words, etc. You write it, you submit it to them, and then what they will do, they will collect these different chapters from different people and put it in one book, and then they start selling it in the market. So that's the book chapter. Sometimes what you do, you have a paper, you develop it, and you feel this cannot be submitted to a journal, or you change direction of the paper, so the old draft is still there, and you feel this is not suitable for a journal article, so you start to look for publishers to publish it in a book chapter. So if it's economics, you find many books about economics, for example, agriculture economics, economics of labor, etc. And they look for people like you to have something ready for them to publish as a chapter in a book. So each chapter is different from the other. Each chapter is authored by different separate authors, and at the end they put it in one book. So these book chapters, they are publications, but they are not as good quality as the journal articles.
Great, thank you, Doctor. Mohammed Imran.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank
you so much, Dr. Ahmad and Professor Hafiz, for this informative session. I have a question for you that if there is a small sample available for data analysis due to a country's security policies, then can we still conduct research on it as there is a research gap and mention it in the limitations section of the paper? Or should we drop the idea of research on that particular issue?
Okay.
Thank you.
This depends on the study. If you are looking, for example, at particular stories at the time of the First World War, okay, and you are looking for live stories from those who lived at that time, so your data, your population will be really small. And then if you conduct, say, 4 or 5 interviews, that will be enough to publish a good quality article, because the data is of quality and your sample is by nature is too small. Who lived during the World War I, who witnessed it, who lived the experience, etc. So it depends on the nature of the study itself. But if you are looking, for example, if, let me say, I want to have conduct a study on perception of customers in one village in the middle of nowhere about certain type of chocolate, and then the reviewers will say, okay, what I'm learning from this? What's your contribution? Why you are focusing on that certain village? Why you are making your population and sample really small? So it depends, again, it depends on what you're looking for. Usually, if the sample is too small, your data mining should be really deep. So you need to get data from different sources by focus groups, interviews, second type of interviews. Your interviews once, twice, and 10 times, so you enhance the data quality. But if you are doing questionnaire and you collected, for example, 20 questionnaires from a population of 3 million, then obviously that's not acceptable. Did I answer your question, Mohammed?
Doctor, I still question if it is secondary data and we are getting from the government's websites, and that government, that country has already been rated negative by an international regulator for the lack of statistics, then what can we do? Should we include it in the limitation section, or how can we proceed? Yep.
Your paper will be rejected or criticized based on the lack of data. So if you are using governmental website and the amount of data is limited, you need to find another source to back yourself up by probably, and this is secondary data, which is fine, but try to conduct interviews, try to send questionnaires, try to find documents somewhere else to back up your policy-based research and data sources. So in this case, you need more than one data source to validate your study.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doctor.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Abdu? Yes, Abdu. We can't hear you, Abdu.
Abdu, I can't hear you. Can you write your question, please? Can you type it?
After that, Najib, I don't know if you want to ask a question, Najib, or not. Abdu, can you speak? Or okay, Firdaus. Firdaus, your mic is mute.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Alaikum assalam.
Professor, I would like to thank you for this session. Because I'm a science student. The first question is that if you try to publish a paper, they always ask you to spin a story. I mean, to start with a story. But for science, we generate data, and it's more or less of a discussion based on the data. I don't understand how the story concept works for science papers.
Okay, if the scientist cannot write stories, then there is a problem, because you are the best people to tell the actual true stories. The story meant it does not have to be a story like bedtime story. It's a story about your research. So what is it you are looking after? You are trying to find. What is it you are trying to write about? What problem you are going to solve, and how you are going to solve it? That's the story. So you see.
I think the word is itself misleading, because if you look into the concept, then it is more or less of an analytical introspection into the topic, and to fill up with all the gaps, rather than the conventional meaning of the word story, as you said, like bedtime. So it's not like a narration. It's more of a complete holistic digging into the data and putting up what you think about, all based on the evidence that you are getting.
It's a scientific story. If you agree about this, it's a science. Each paper, each article is a scientific story.
Okay, my second question to you is, sir, when you talk about writing a paper, there are two things which are always considered hard, and one is the introduction, and the last one is the conclusion. Do you have any kind of a special tips that you would like to advise for getting through the introduction and conclusion? Because normally people suggest you start with your methodology, because that is the easiest part, as you know, as you can write it easily because you're doing it yourself. But for introduction and conclusion, they always say that, it should be the last.
Okay. Usually we start with the literature review. So we clarify what's in there, what's being written about a certain topic. And then based on the literature review, we start moving towards the methodology and then the analysis, etc. And then we write the conclusion. Now, during the course of writing, we already have some introduction, but it does not mean we will have the introduction section ready up front. So it is good to write the paper starting from do the research first, get the results, do the analysis, etc., and then start to write it up. But at that time, you already have some raw materials, so you have written a lot about your literature, about the research gap, about everything else. Then you go back and you write your introduction section. Even if you've written your introduction section at the start of your research, you go back and amend it, update it, and polish it. So to make it shine, as I said, but to show what gap, what problem, what queries, and what motivations you have for the study, and you link it logically with a conclusion, or you link the conclusion logically to your introduction. So it depends on your writing style. I myself, I write the introduction and the literature review at the same time, but I keep going back to these sections to amend. To sometimes you keep writing on the introduction and you find the introduction is like 5-10 pages and it needs cutting down. So it depends on your writing style. But as you said, it's better to write the introduction at last, and then you write your abstract.
One personal question I would like to ask you is that do you struggle to squeeze the information in short, concise form, because they always have a limit on journals on the number of words? I mean, how do you really tackle with that situation?
I do struggle. I do struggle sometimes with bringing the number of words down to the requirements, especially when it comes to the abstract. Sometimes you have a sentence and you can't remove any single word from it, and then you have to keep it, but you have to cut at least 1 or 2 words. So what I do, I consult colleagues. Just give it to them, make them read it, and say, okay, I need to cut on something, and they help you. That's for the abstract. For the article itself, there is a rule. When you write a paragraph and you think, okay, this fine, it fits nicely, but I'm thinking, can I take it? So the rule is, if in doubt, take it out. So the minute you think of a sentence or a word or a section, does it need to be there? That means you are in doubt. If in doubt, take it out. So that's the easy rule for cutting down on words. The proofreading helps a lot, because professional proofreaders are good in shortening sentences, and they help. And then, you know, that's the rule, 8,000 words the maximum, so we have to be bounded by it. If you submit 8,002, some journals wouldn't accept the submission.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the answers.
Thank you.
Nice of you.
Thank you for those. Abdu, can you talk now? Shefaz? Shefaz?
Then you need to unmute
your mic is mute, Shefaz. If you unmute your mic, Shefaz, please. Shefaz?
Your mic is unmuted. It needs to be muted, please. No, unmuted. I can't hear you because your mic is muted.
All right. That's it for today, Professor Hafez. Thank you so much for your time and effort and support. Sorry, there is a Najib. Najib. Sorry, Najib. Alaikum salam.
Hello, Professor Hafez. Thank you for your presentation. And it's very useful, honestly. And we learn lots of things from you, rules and policies. But I have, you know, just one question. We are in second language, or in Arabic, you know.
Yeah.
We can talk in English, we can write in English. But the problem, something when we receive from the reviewer, they said they need the English editor. And when we submit it to someone who is speaking English in English, an oral language, original English, by the grammar or something, they cost lots of money. So how we focus or fix this problem? So there's any advice or something? That's we have good quality idea. We have to present the idea, but the problem, you know, they're organized for the English language. That's That's almost our colleague and almost in Arab, to be honest. That's why we're not accepted in Q1 or high quality journal. So what the solution for these problems? And thank you.
Thank you, Najib. I'm afraid there is no easy solution because obviously we need to adhere to the communication language, which is English in this case. I know it's the cost can be quite high if the institution does not pay for it, then that's the real problem. The only thing you can is try to get help from colleagues who understand good English, try to have the paper proofread by English teachers in local schools, etc. So it's not easy to find an easy solution for it. But as I said, English is the communication language of the science, so the written English, and the same applies for Arabic. So just imagine someone submitted a homework. If someone submit a homework to you, and this homework is full of grammatical mistakes, etc. So initially you will fail it.
Yeah, Professor, I know that, but I said if there's any, suggestion for company, they do editing, English editing, or someone who's a professional for the academy, if you know, that's what I mean, or there is any company website or professional people, that's how we, what is the benefit for workshop? The workshop, you meet someone, his experience, he has good idea about, companies, relationship with other academic professional English language. So that's what we need, if there's any.
I myself, I've been here in the UK for 20 years. But every time I submit a paper, I have it proofread by a professional proofreader. So I do deal with companies and professional proofreaders, and I pay them. I pay them through my institution. So I'm not aware of any free service proofreading here in the UK or wherever. So initially, companies are trying to make profit, and that's the way. So if you want me to introduce you to some of those proofreaders, I'm more than happy to. But as I said, they don't offer free service.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I will contact you.
Thank you, Najib. Abdu, I hope you made it this time. Abdu? Your mic is unmuted. Yeah, now okay. But we can't hear you. Abdu, we can't hear you. All right. Thank you, Dr. Hafiz, again, for your time and effort. And thank you all for joining ITAR online webinar. Please don't forget to fill the survey after leaving the webinar. The next webinar will be by Professor Lisa Jack, and the topic will be getting it right from the start, lessons I've learned about publishing in academic, next Thursday. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you again, Professor Hafiz, for everything. I will stay a bit in the room. If anyone have any question, please do asking. Regarding Professor Hafiz, sorry for that. Many of questions they ask about the presentation. Can you send it to me so I can send it to who attend the webinar, please?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yes.
Great. Regarding certificate, this webinar it won't provide a certificate, and who's also I received many emails regarding last week seminar, Professor Sabri Abu Bakr, and they ask about also the presentation. I am sorry, he didn't send me the presentation yet, so you can contact him directly. I think it will be better.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you, everyone.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Guys, for the next webinar, you can check my Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, ResearchGate, all of them. I will announce the next webinar if you want to register.